Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's masterclass. I see people have joined us from all over the world. We just went past the 60 attendees mark. I think we're heading to 100 in a bit. Now, as most of you are checking in, just leave in the chat section where you're reaching us from. So whether you're joining us from Mumbai, from Accra, from Lagos, from Addis Ababa, from Johannesburg, wherever you're joining us from, just leave your location in the chat. My name is Jojo Kwanzaa. I'll properly introduce myself soon, but I just trying to know all of you first. So just leave your, oh, wow. There's someone, so there's Oyin Lade is joining us from Lagos. And there's Avinash joining us from Budapest, Romania. Lovely. Pleased to meet you, Avinash. Mahek is joining us from Mumbai. Pragyash is joining us from Delhi. Okay, that's quite an interesting spread globally that we have here. Like it's quite a wide geographical reach that we have here on the call this afternoon. And Shahil is joining us from India. Shahil, which city are you in? Okay, I see Juhi joining us from Uttar Pradesh. And I see Gaurav joining us from Nigeria. Gaurav, are you in Abuja or Lagos? And Afsa is joining us from Bangladesh. Divya joined us from Delhi. Pleased to meet all of you, and it's lovely to have so many of you join us from different corners of the world. Good evening to those in Asia. I think it's good afternoon to those in West Africa. Good evening also to those in East Africa. And late good morning to those joining us from the United States. We will start off in just a minute. Let me just give a chance for a lot more people to join us on the call. And in the meantime, I see Arian also joining us from India. Arian, which city in India are you in? I've seen a few Indian cities myself in my time, and I hope it's one of the ones I've visited previously. Hi, Risha. Risha joined us from Uttar Pradesh, and Arian joined us from Odisha. All right. So I think at this point, we have over 200 of you joining in. Before we begin, let me first give you a brief update of. So today we are looking at balancing innovation and excellence, brought to you by the Geese College of Business at the University of Illinois. The focus of today's session is building teams and strategies for innovation-driven growth. And I'll soon introduce our speaker. But before I proceed, you will see two polls on your screen, the first of which is currently displayed. I will invite you to make a choice. So the question is, what do you think is the biggest challenge for companies when trying to innovate? What do you think is the biggest challenge for companies when trying to innovate? First option is coming up with new ideas. Then there's taking risk and experimenting. And there's balancing daily work with new projects, and then getting people on board with change. A is coming up with new ideas. B is taking risk and experimenting. C is balancing daily work with new projects. And D is getting people on board with change. I'll urge everyone to cast their ballot in this poll, and then we'll review the answers together as we go deeper into today's topic on balancing innovation and excellence. So interesting. Now, 29% of you believe coming up with new ideas is the biggest challenge. 3% more above that, that's 32% believe taking risk and experimenting is challenging, or the biggest challenge. And then 18% is balancing daily work with new projects, and all that you can get swamped with, of course. And then 20% of you believe that it's getting people on board with change. Getting people on board with change, it's a major challenge. This is interesting to note. We'll go on to the next poll, which is coming right up. We'll get onto the next poll. In the meantime, yes, so this second poll is asking, what aspects of studying in the US excites you most when it comes to preparing for a career in innovation and leadership? What aspects of studying in the US excites you most when it comes to preparing for a career in innovation and leadership? A, exposure to global perspectives and diverse teams. B, access to cutting-edge research and frameworks. C, opportunities for hands-on projects and real-world learning. And D, networking with faculty, peers, and industry leaders. 1, exposure to global perspective and diverse teams. B, access to cutting-edge research and frameworks. C, opportunities for hands-on project and real-world learning. And D, networking with faculty, peers, and industry leaders. So we'll leave this on for a few seconds, allowing everyone to cast their votes. And I still see a few of you join. I see Natasha Jain from Delhi. Welcome, Natasha. Wow, this is interesting. So we have exposure to global perspective and diverse teams. Almost half of you believe almost half of you have that as your most exciting aspect when it comes to studying in the US and preparing for a career in innovation leadership. 21% of you also believe access to cutting-edge research and frameworks. And then the last two, opportunities for hands-on project and real-world learning and networking with faculty, peers, and industry leaders, have 16 and 17% respectively. So exposure to global perspective, it's the biggest choice for almost half of you. That's 40% of you. Now let's go on to today's session. Now that we have a lot more of you joining, we are exactly on 300 participants. It's good to see all of you. Let me first introduce myself. My name is Jojo Kwanzaa. I'm Regional Director for Africa at Seed Global Education, and I'll be your host for this afternoon. We'll start with a presentation on the topic, which is balancing innovation and excellence. I'll introduce our speaker in a bit, and then once we are done, another speaker will come in and talk a bit about the Geese College of Business and what makes it a unique proposition as far as reaching your goal of study in the US is concerned. And then we'll go into question and answers where you can ask questions both about the topic you're about to present and also about the Geese College of Business. So we'll zoom right in now. It's my pleasure to introduce Associate Professor Geoffrey E of the Geese College of Business at the University of Illinois. He's an expert widely recognized for his research on organizational innovation and change. Professor Lab's work focuses on how firms can successfully manage innovation whilst maintaining operational excellence. His insight into organizational ambidexterity, that's balancing the exploitation of existing strength and the exploration of new opportunities, have shaped the way leaders think about innovation in practice. Ladies and gentlemen from all over the world, I introduce to you our speaker for this afternoon, Associate Professor Geoffrey E from the Geese College of Business, University of Illinois. Over to you, Professor E, your audience.
Well, hello, everybody. I am very excited to be able to provide the presentation today. This is, I do a lot of teaching online at the University of Illinois. We have, our online MBA program, and what you're going to see is a lot of the material comes from that. but I haven't done it in this format. And often also our audience tends to be from the States and Europe, um, rather than as we see here. So I just think this is pretty exciting, and I hope that you are able to get an insight or two from what I'm going to talk through and what we'll discuss a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead now and see if I can't get this thing started. There we are. Um, Jojo, can you see the screen?
Yes, very clearly.
Oh, okay, very good. So what we're going to talk about today, I consider them fundamentals, but that doesn't mean they're easy to grab to grab hold of and actually make work in an organizational environment. So I think you'll find it quite interesting. And so we're going to talk about technology cycles. We're going to talk about something called organizational ambidexterity. And that ambidexterity is how we get at this idea of balancing innovation and excellence. So the agenda is gonna be to first start by saying, all right, to understand how an organization, and this a lot of this is going to be thinking about it from an organizational perspective. How does technology and how do markets evolve? They go through cycles. And so if you've had a chance to look at some of the videos that we sent out, I'll be going through some of the things that you'll have seen and trying to bring it to the essence. And if you haven't, that's fine because I'm going to be assuming that people really haven't gone through the videos at this point. So that's our first thing. The second thing is to say, all right, if technology and markets evolve, as of course they do, then what are the challenges that pose for firms, and particularly in their established product lines, but also in new product lines? Innovation has to happen in both, but the nature of what has to happen is somewhat different. And so then we're going to move to our solution. There's lots of solutions to dealing with the challenges of technology and market cycles. We're going to look at something called ambidexterity. Ambidexterity, if you're a basketball player, you can shoot with your left hand or your right hand, or you can throw with your left hand or your right hand. And it's hard to make a realistic throw while I'm sitting here, but nevertheless, you get an idea. The idea is you can do two things that at the same time, or that most people can't do. And here, the idea is you can succeed simultaneously in your established product line. Maybe excellence is a focus there, and with a new and innovative line. So why is this worthy of your attention? The big picture is that these technology cycles, when a technology appears, it develops, it matures, these are the essence of Schumpeter's idea of creative destruction. You may have heard of Schumpeter. He's an economist who talked about the vibrancy and dynamism of capitalism. And so he started people out on the idea that things aren't static. And the reason why this is compelling is when you look at studies, and you can see it in front of you all the time, firms fail more often when they are trying to respond to technological discontinuities, to these technology cycles, than they do to demand downturns. Demand downturns are, of course, really challenging, but failures increase remarkably. This is from one of the seminal articles during Ferment. But we know a lot about this, so there's ways to anticipate and deal with the challenges that arise. And so that's a big picture level. And an individual picture, a lot of us are in the middle of something like this. Even at Illinois, we're in the middle of a technological discontinuity in how education is delivered online, for example, and how AI is impacting in our particular marketplace and professions. So, all right, that's the motivation. Let me dive in and go ahead and talk a little bit about this idea of a technology cycle and discontinuity. So, what you see on the chart here is a what we would call people call it an S curve. It's kind of like you took the S and you stretched it out. And what it describes is how, with a given technology, technical performance tends to change over time. This is a pattern that seems to happen over and over again. Many of you may be familiar with it, where initially performance is low and it increases slowly. In the middle portion of the curve, and I'll elaborate on the curve in just a little bit, it increases more rapidly. Okay, this is while the market is developing and growing fast, typically. And then finally, the market matures, the technology, I'm sorry, the technology matures, and we have only incremental gains. But the thing about technology cycles is they aren't singular. If we take, for example, one technology, which was sailing ships, right? Many thousands of years that we had sailing ships, but then along came a second technology, steam-powered ships. And initially, steam-powered ships were not as effective, didn't have as high performance as sailing ships, right? They had short range, they were unreliable, they were slow, but they overtook sailing ships in terms of their capability. And now, of course, anything commercial, we're talking, well, steam, now we move to diesel and gas turbines and all those things. But the idea of a technological discontinuity, right? A cycle is kind of broken by a discontinuity where there's a breakthrough innovation that advanced the state of the art by an order of magnitude. And that's not a mathematical order of magnitude. It's not a power of 10, but it's like a quantum jump. Okay, so that's the idea. We see this all the time. We saw this with steam engines and diesel locomotives on railroads, with propeller-driven aircraft and jet-driven aircraft, with mainframe computers uh, being replaced by mini computers, being replaced by personal computers to a large extent. These are discontinuities, and then the web and AI, for example, as new technologies that in many areas increase the power of that technology. So I think this is a familiar idea. The S curve becomes important because what's happening early on is that there's a lot of experimentation. For example, if you watched uh, with some of the videos, oh, I'm not sure that I included that one. Well, if you look at some early aircraft, right, they take all kinds of different forms. There was an umbrella aircraft, there was a butterfly aircraft, there were just all kinds as people, cars the same way, automobiles. They're, kerosene powered. They were even early electric powered. Some of them used, how do you steer the thing? Well, they didn't all use a steering wheel. Some of them used a tiller, like from ships. And so there's a lot of experimentation on the product. We're not sure what it's going to look like, what the fundamental components are, and what relationships are between them. And so we're experimenting a lot. There's a lot of innovation. The marketplace penetration tends to be small. A critical point comes when what's called a dominant design, and this is an important concept. It's an architecture that becomes the accepted standard. So in the case of aircraft, it's like, well, okay, we're going to use a gasoline engine. We are going to have either one or two wings, but the wings are going to be in the front. We're going to turn using ailerons. We're going to have the motor pulling the plane forward, the propeller in the front rather than a pusher propeller as occurred early on. So things coalesce, and that is powerful because now people have one model that they can work towards and try to improve. And so the market takes off, it becomes segmented. We move from product experimentation to process improvements to a significant extent. We work on lowering costs instead of technological capability. So things change. Things change a great deal as the technology cycle matures. And if we look at the other side, who's buying these things? That's the idea of the innovation adoption life cycle. We can think about customer segments, right? And it's kind of parallel. We can go ahead and say, well, there's a small group of what we call innovators, then some early adopters, the early majority, late majority, and what we call laggers, right? And these are just labels people put on to different market segments. And I'm sure you've all seen this, that early on, the people who adopt the technology maybe are different than those who adopt later on. The pattern, broadly speaking, is that the techies are just looking for the functionality. They're like, this is something that does something I couldn't do before. And then we got visionaries who are thinking, well, I need some functionality and reliability, but these are early adopters who are willing to go through, who are willing to pay a lot of money often for this technology, and they're willing to accept that it's not perfect, even though the functionality and reliability is increasing. And then what changes? Well, you might have thought, oh, Professor Love made a mistake here. He left a gap. Well, this is what a fellow named Moore calls the chasm, because and a lot of companies do what he calls falling into the chasm. You may have heard of this, where the pragmatists, right, who are the early majority. This is your big market. Your first. This is the market's small until this point, but what they want is convenience. They want the product to work perfectly and easily and smoothly, or the service. They're not willing to go to any trouble to make it work. And this catches companies by surprise because they're riding this wave. They may see themselves as being very successful, right? Because our sales are going up rapidly, but what we don't realize is we're burning through customers who are looking for one thing. And what we're doing now is not going to get us to where we need to go later on. And then the conservatives, they're looking at cost, right? Later, as we get to the late majority. So you can imagine the company has to shift what it thinks is important in the market, which means what it thinks is important in its products. And internally, that means instead of the R&D people being the more important, maybe it's the marketing people in the middle, and maybe the operations people later on, where we're really focusing on costs. And this is just a broad brush uh, explanation. The skeptics being a lost cause, there's some people you never get, right? But the point of this chart is things are changing both in terms of the technology and the marketplace. And that's the idea of technology and market cycles. And so having some broad sense of how this is going to happen is very powerful, because it can let you jump onto a technology cycle, and you can try to avoid falling into the pitfalls, falling into the chasm, so to speak. So the other thing we need to understand, right, is that these cycles come with a lot of uncertainty. We don't know what's going to happen. And I'm going back over 100 years. I'm fascinated by airplanes, as you may have picked up when you watch the videos. You know, the New York Times, right, at the time, and continuing, one of the most authoritative publications in the States, they wrote after a prominent failure of a fellow named Langley. They wrote that their evaluation, this was an editorial, the flying machine, which might really fly, might be evolved by the combined and continuous efforts of mathematicians and mechanicians in from 1 million to 10 million years. Okay, so we're kind of thinking this is going to be really hard to do. Now, those of you who are familiar with the history of aviation might be saying, oh, 1903, I know 1903. On the same day, right? The very same day, in his diary, there was a bicycle mechanic. His name was Orville Wright, and he wrote, we unpacked rest of goods for new machine. Okay, well, what was that machine? Well, there it is. When the New York Times wrote that editorial, the machine that would fly had already been built. They just didn't know it. So this highlights the uncertainty that companies face in thinking about the trajectory of new technologies. And so we explore the implications of that, right? Because it makes it difficult to succeed. The incumbents in the market are looking at the initial products. They see them as crude and expensive. They have established markets. They don't know how fast the market is, so they're not sure what to do. They need to do a lot of experimentation. Just because it's a crude product doesn't mean you don't need to spend a lot of money on it. And so you have a continued investment required in the face of uncertainty, very different than in an established marketplace and product and technology, where you can see the path with much more clarity. And even as the market grows, there's lucrative opportunities and maybe limited competitive pressures, but that growth attracts new entrants. So this uncertain dynamic nature of new markets is fundamental to understanding what to do on this. Now, I just put this in, I put it in blue, so it's as if it's just semi-highlighted. Given the size of the group that we have here, and what I was told is, well, we don't usually have like um, people bringing in their own comments. But if we were doing this in our online program, that's what we do. We have 90 minutes, so we have a lot more time. But you can go ahead. I would love to have comments in the chat. Um, and I'm going to put the chat here. Um, see what I can do. I don't know if it's going to stay. Yeah, it is. Okay, so I might see and comment if you, for example, have encountered interesting issues in technology cycles. So this is the first part of the session, right? To have you gain some familiarity um, with the fundamental idea of technology cycles, how they evolve, and the importance of uncertainty. Uncertainty we just really touched on, but this is the imagery in your mind. And now we're going to transition to implications for succeeding in innovation. Okay. So if you watch the video, you saw this diamond, and the one here is maybe it's a little bit different than the video because I didn't put in the critical task. I just had strategy. But if you just focus here on this diamond, I want to explain what the diamond is. It's a representation of an organization. The people, the culture, and the informal aspects of the organization. The formal organization, that means the structure, who reports to who, um, the systems, the processes and routines, all the things that are all the things that are formalized, the incentive structure, and all of these things, the people and the informal organization, our organization culture and our formal organization, they're aiming to do some certain critical tasks well. It might be to develop a new technology rapidly. It might be to deliver a product or service at low cost. And that's where the strategy comes in, right? If you have a low cost strategy, the critical tasks your organization has to do to succeed are different than if your strategy is based on innovation. And the key thing about this idea of congruence and fit, people also call it alignment, is that you want the people and the culture and the formal organization to all support those critical tasks. So if the critical task is innovation, your culture might uh, um, uh, might celebrate even failed, but honest, innovative attempts. Whereas if it's low cost, well, you probably won't have that as a central part of your culture. It'll probably be much more accountability focused, right? Very different culture, different people with different skills, different attitudes and outlooks. The formal organization might be more decentralized if you're innovating, more centralized if you're focused on costs. So this idea that we build our organization to support our strategy by doing critical tasks well is fundamental. I call it the diamond, right? And the lines across the diamond indicate that all these are related to each other. The people, if they have an attitude towards a risk that's positive, well, maybe that's going to support a culture of experimentation. Whereas if the people are cautious about risk, maybe that's going to support a culture of accountability, delivering on time, making sure we don't get out ahead of ourselves, and so on. So there's the diamond. Now, what you see in this chart is highlights the idea of organizational evolution. You see the S curve running underneath the uh, the diamonds, right? You see it running underneath. And what that means is early on when innovation, remember we talked about, I talked about product experimentation as being critical in the early part of the technology cycle. Our diamond is oriented towards innovation. We've got to change it. We've got to go through significant organizational change as we move to the part where we establish a dominant design, and now we're differentiating our product from others. There's multiple products where people have figured out how to make it work. And so we're looking at different segments and so on. And then later on, our diamond has to change again. Now we've got to support a cost focus because the product moves towards being a commodity. And again, this is a um, broad brush description, but it kind of gives you the idea that the diamond has to change, and that takes a lot of time. For example, a company that I studied while I was doing my doctoral work was Compaq Computer, which was acquired by Hewlett Packard just after the turn of the century. And Compaq was riding high. They had figured out how to do laptops and what were called IBM compatible personal computers uh, because they were very good at the technology side. They were innovative, and they were also pretty decent at the marketing side. They had a good strategy there. But they really had a lot, so they made the transition from the first to the second diamond, but they failed miserably with the third, okay, because they never were focused on low costs. They came into the market early and they'd succeeded by building really capable, powerful computers. And that was the culture. That was the belief is that's how we win. And so when it became more cost focused, they went through several CEO changes, very painful. They didn't make that transition. So this transition is what you keep in mind. It's the challenge that you face during technology cycles in your established business. What's critical to do changes, you need to change your organization, change your strategy as that happens. You can't succeed with one strategy through the whole evolution of the market. Okay, so now we come to what I think is kind of the most interesting and exciting part of the presentation, right? Now you have a really a broad understanding of the challenges that technology and cycles pose for organizations. And now let's think about, but what about, and organizations are innovating all the time in their established markets, but what if you have an innovation in a new product area, in a new market, which is just starting out, right? But you're a big company. We're going to focus on the leadership and design of innovation initiatives and a powerful solution, this idea of ambidexterity that I already talked about a little bit. And that is how we can think about succeeding in established and new marketplaces, where what you need to do is very different, as we just went over. In the established market, it's differentiation, it's cost focus, it's incremental innovation. Incremental doesn't mean easy, it doesn't mean small, it means moving forward in a more linear way, uh, building on what you've already done. And but then succeed simultaneously in more radical innovations. I should have said more radical or new market innovation, where speed, flexibility are critical experimentation. Um, the issue is that these innovation initiatives, they often appear as exciting prospects to those in the middle of the game, but they come with the peril of being undermined for many reasons within an established organization. So let me just give you an example of what ambidexterity, uh, how it looks on an organization chart. And this organization chart is from a case that I teach about Hewlett Packard. It's their initiative to build portable scanners. And it's from some time ago, but the organizational design that ambidexterity involves hasn't changed. Um, this is what it looked like when they set up their organization in the standard approach. They had an R&D function, a marketing function. This is a division, actually. It's a business unit within Hewlett Packard. And so we've got a general manager. We've got a number of the division managers. These are the key functional managers. And what they do is they say, well, okay, there's a fellow named Kara who leads a small unit that's doing R&D on portable scanners as opposed to flatbed scanners. Flatbeds are the established market. It's fast moving. Prices are coming down. It's fairly mature. They're having a lot of trouble succeeding in making the changes in time, but they're market leading. They're doing a really good job. And then we've got they have a marketing guy and a small team uh, over in portables. So the idea is they built teams in each function. Now, one option they had was to make this a cross-functional team, and really these guys work pretty closely together. But the idea of ambidexterity is different. Ambidexterity would involve doing this, where what you see is that they take everybody involved in portables, they make them into one unit, they make it semi-autonomous, they fund it, and they have it report to the general manager of the flatbeds division. And one of the tensions in the case is that Faraci, who's been very supportive, is leaving, and so they're not sure how this is going to work, right? But the ambidexterity is you create a the key move structurally is you create a separate unit. That's the key move. And you create it earlier than you might think makes sense based on the market size and so on, for the reason that it's got to act very differently than your mainstream organization. That's the tension. This in the organization chart on the left, the issue is that Corral and Walker, they're trying their best, but they're embedded in a culture, they're embedded in a set of in a systems, they're embedded in power relationships where they're going to be looked at as if they're part of the mainstream organization, the flatbeds. Here they have a chance to be distinctive if they move over and make a separate unit. Okay. So why is this important? Why does this enable success? And it's a quite active area of research, and there's a lot of evidence that this is something that you really should think about earlier than you might otherwise. It's costly, it's time consuming, but here's the thing. In your established market, when this is happening, you are you're somewhere up at the top of the S curve. Your organization has evolved to focus on differentiation or cost. And now you want it to look like this down at the bottom. You want it to be able to be very innovative and experimental and to deal with uncertainty that's much higher than in the established market. So you need a new diamond. You need a little you need a part of the organization to work with a new set of capabilities and outlooks and design than your main organization. And to do that, what people who studied it have found, it's very effective to move those people into one separate unit. Here's some of we're not going to go through this in depth, but here are some of the things where the established business, that's the exploitative. That's just the way that academics talk. Exploitative means that you are exploiting your established capabilities. It's not exploiting in a bad way. Um, so you're thinking about operations and efficiency and formal mechanistic structures, and you're focused on margin and productivity. Whereas in the exploratory business, it's very different. You're more entrepreneurial, your structure's more adaptive and loose, so on and so forth. Just give you a bit of a picture of this difference. And see, your diamond has to support the left column, or actually the middle column in the established business, and the right column in the new business. So that's what ambidexterity gives you a chance to do. Now, what people have found is if you don't move towards ambidexterity, and if you do, the established business often undermines innovation initiatives. This is one of the big dangers, right? Because the organization's built wrong, and so they need money in the established business, and the uncertainty in the new innovative business means it's hard to say that I'm sure it's going to be successful if we spend that money. But there's plenty of projects in the established large business that are right out there where we're pretty sure they're gonna create value. And in the case that Greeley case, the functional managers even basically steal money that was oriented towards the portables from corporate. The innovation can be seen as a distraction. We're busy. We got a lot of things to do. Why do we need to spend all this time? So you don't get a commitment and ownership and attention from senior management. And those of you who've been in innovation environments are going to recognize that without that, innovation initiatives are going to stall. So, and then there's the cultural expectations. Maybe you're thinking that the new product's going to be perfect because that's the standard in the established market. But in the new market, remember we said the products are crude and expensive. You need something to get out there and explore the market with. So these things undermine your progress. They starve you of resources, they starve you of attention, they starve you of appropriate evaluation. And so I'm not going to go into these here because I didn't want to make undermining a real big focus. But I did want to say that what motivated the idea in ambidexterity, that doing it the way it's on the left, designing your organization on the left, people see a lot of undermining. Designing it on the right bottom gives you a chance to avoid that. So how do we make ambidexterity work? And by the way, you might have seen, if some of you are into music, you might have seen Pink Floyd's "The Dark Side of the Moon" graphic showing up from time to time. Um, why do I do that? Well, that's that's our kind of symbol that if we learn about innovation well, what's going to happen is there's going to be this white light with all frequencies coming in, right? And it just looks like white light. But if we know about innovation, we can use a prism to split that light and see all the issues, right? See it in a way that's vibrant and colorful and multidimensional. So that's what I talk about in the IMBA, just so that if you're wondering, uh, we try to have a little fun. Okay, yeah, the prism, innovation prism. We talk about it sometimes. Um, so the thing about establishing an independent unit, you might say, oh, that's easy. I just put people over in a box in the organization, make them report to somebody, and that's all that it takes. But that's where this idea of the diamond comes in, right? Once you separate that unit, once you say, for example, okay, I'm going to have my portable scanner unit. All the people across the functions are going to be in one organizational box. They're all going to report to one person who's responsible for that unit, for that initiative, and that's going to report to a senior manager. Uh, that's the separation. They have to redesign the diamond. You have to think about what kind of people we want there. You have to think about the culture. You have to reshape the culture to focus on innovation and experimentation rather than excellence, right? You have to build the organization so that, for example, the incentives are based on milestones more than on sales figures initially, things like that. So that's something that companies miss a lot. They miss that once they go ahead and separate the organization, you got to rebuild your diamond. And that takes leadership. And a lot of that leadership comes from the senior team. The senior team has to integrate the established business and the innovative business. The reason being, if they don't, they're going to feel like they're in competition for resources. And there's all kinds of conflict that might arise because maybe the innovation business is in the exciting new area, right? Where it's like the golden boys and the golden girls are over there, and here we are grinding away in the established business where there isn't that technological excitement. I saw this when I studied a mini computer firm where the technological discontinuity was going from proprietary systems to uh, open systems and open operating systems. And the proprietary system was making all the money, but it was a technological dead end. And all the engineers wanted to go over to the new unit, but the organization needed them to stay, right? So the senior team has to play a very active role. They have to treat the new and the established business differently, which causes all kinds of trouble, right? But that's the picture that you want to see. Okay. And so here's the takeaways. We talked about the leadership and design of innovation initiatives. And the key concept was this idea of ambidexterity built around and undergirded by technology cycles and organizational life cycles where the diamond has to change. And what we have the outlines of here is being able to address a core challenge, how to compete in established markets and simultaneously in new markets that require radical innovation. And what we're hoping to equip you with is a sense that, yeah, I know innovations are exciting prospects, but I've seen our efforts get undermined many times. How do I get around that? Well, this is one way. So thank you. Maybe we'll see you sometime again in another one of these sessions. And that's what I've got.
Thank you very much, Professor Love. This has been an interesting session. I know that we have a few questions. I think if we can just hold on the questions for 10 minutes. If you do have questions that you haven't put in there, please go to the Q&A, go to the Q&A section and just leave your questions on there. We'll tackle that. Some of you also have an opportunity to speak as well. So we'll tackle that. But in the meantime, we'll move on to one more activity just for 10 minutes, and then we will come back and take all the questions. Now, our next activity, I'll be inviting a member of the team at Geese College of Business at the University of Illinois, Jia Shin. So Jia is the Senior Associate Director for Recruitment Admissions at Geese, and Jia will be telling you a little bit in the next 10 minutes about the Geese College of Business and what unique opportunities exist for you at that College of Business. So over to you, Jia.
Great. Well, thank you, Professor Love. Thank you, Jojo. My name is Jia. I'm the Senior Associate Director for Recruiting Admission for our Geese graduate programs. Our team's main focus is on-campus program, but also we can help direct you to the online program if that's what you're interested in as well. And Professor Love is teaching the online program. So definitely you can also sign up for individual courses on Coursera if you just want to get a taste of our online program as well. So now I'm going to share a little bit about our university and what we're offering in terms of graduate level at Geese. So as you know, University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign, aka a lot of people call us UIUC from our global friends. We are a top institution that has long history of more than 150 years. We are highly ranked in terms of U.S. News World Report ranking, QS ranking, Times Higher Education ranking. So definitely in those top 50, top 100 universities of the world, you can always see our name there. And we're a public institution that has over 56,000 students. And I think this fall, we welcomed even more new students here. Right now, we had more than 60,000 students on campus. And those students are from all over the world, like, from India, from Nigeria, from Ghana, right, from China, Korea, all over the world, from over 123 countries this year. We are located in a small college town, 2.5 hours drive from Chicago O'Hare Airport. I feel like it's pretty convenient for you to, either want to go to Chicago or visit Indianapolis or St. Louis to enjoy the city life. Well, you can also kind of enjoy the quiet campus life and all kinds of campus activities like, Big Ten sports, right? Watching a football game or basketball game or a concert, everything. So it's a really nice what we call micro-urban environment in Champaign-Urbana. Speaking of Geese College of Business, we are a highly recognized, highly ranked college, and we also have a lot of programs at the graduate level that are very well recognized by the industry as well. For example, our IMBA program was named the MBA program of the year by Post & Quants in 2022, and our flagship on-campus master's program, MS in accountancy, ranked top 3 in the country. So because of our big presence in the business education, we have a lot of alums across the world. We have more than 95,000 alums all over the world. So whenever you're visiting Chicago or Beijing, right, or Delhi, you can always find our Geese alums there. And what sets Geese apart is our focus on action learning, because business is a subject that you have to use it in your daily life, right? Most of the people will interact with some sort of business actions every day. So we will teach you how to implement whatever you learn from the classroom on the real project. no matter if you're undergrad student or graduate student, you will graduate with at least one action learning course or action learning project where you can kind of see how you can help a real company make a real impact. So you can act as a consultant to provide your business ideas, right? Innovative ideas, new product development ideas, and then see how it's implemented in a real company. In terms of our on-campus graduate programs, we have programs in accountancy, business analytics, finance, financial engineering, management, technology management. So those are all 1 to 1.5 years program. I can kind of give you a kind of overview in a few slides later. And as an international student, you might want to know like, oh, which program is STEM designated, which allows me to kind of practice, my practice in the workplace in the United States for more than 1 year, or maybe 2 or 3 years. So you do not have to remember which one is STEM designated because all of them are STEM designated. Even the management program, technology management program, a lot of schools are not offering these programs as STEM designated. However, GEES, we are providing a very cutting edge curriculum in data analytics, right? All of the courses you're going to learn how to use data to implement in the real business world. So we make sure that our curriculum are STEM designated, so allow you to kind of work in the United States for a longer time before you secure H-1B visa or before you decide to go anywhere else in the world to work. So I will recommend that you take a screenshot or take a picture of this kind of general information for all the programs. So as I said, these programs are 1 year or 1.5 years. The application requirement is quite similar. In terms of GRE, most of the programs are optional or has a GRE waiver. Our MS in Finance program currently still require GRE, but there might be some like changes that we are putting on a waiver later in the cycle. Stay tuned. And one program that I do want to know, I do want to emphasize is our MS in Technology Management program, because I think most of us who are in this session are interested in managing a team, managing innovation, right? Helping a company develop new product, new ideas. So our MS in Technology Management has a concentration called consumer consumer and product innovation. So it is it has a series of electives that you can choose if you are interested in managing innovation, new product, right? Technology industry and things like that. So definitely, I would like to recommend that you check out our MS in Technology Management program, which is highly related to what Professor Love is presenting today. So if you're international students from a non-English as a primary language country, you still need to take TOEFL, IELTS, or Duolingo. We have pretty flexible kind of admission standard. So if you meet full status, don't worry about it. If you are between limited status and full status, those kind of scores, you can still submit your application. So all you need to do is to take 1 or 2 English as a second language courses on top of other courses. So in terms of funding opportunity, we provide partial scholarship ranging from $5,000 to $10,000. We also provide a lot of on-campus jobs, which are hourly paid. As an international student, you can work up to 20 hours per week. So that will definitely help you offset some of the living costs. And in Champaign, our living cost is relatively low, a lot lower than big cities like Chicago, Boston, or Los Angeles. So you can see the chart that I took a screenshot from a website. Even with the inflation recent years, you are able to cover everything, including rent, utility, room and board, transportation, everything, personal expenses, within about $1,600 per month. So it's a lot more affordable than big cities. So when you consider your total cost of attending a graduate programs, definitely consider, scholarship, campus job opportunity, and also, what amount of money that you have to pay out of your pocket for your personal living. So next slide is our kind of our deadlines. Right now, all of the programs are in our first round, first round application for summer or fall 2026. Our accountancy and finance program also offers spring cohort as well. So definitely I recommend that you check out our website. There are different ways to connect with us if you have individual questions about application, right? Campus life. We have our admissions team offering one-on-one advising with you to help you get through the application process. We also have our student ambassador who offer video one-on-one chat with you as well to share their own experience on campus. Definitely also sign up for our social media like Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok. We do have a TikTok account now as a college. So you can kind of see in action what we're doing, what our students are kind of enjoying every day. All right, so that's my presentation. If you're interested in getting a application fee waiver as well, we will provide application fee waiver after this webinar. After I get the list from Seed Global Education, I'll send an email to everyone so you can kind of request the application fee waiver there. Jojo, back to you.
Yes, thank you very much, Gia. This has been short, crisp, and very insightful. We'll proceed to questions. Now, for the audience, you can ask questions about both the presentation that Professor Love made and also about Gia's presentation about the Geese College of Business. We'll take a few questions. So I have a few in the Q&A and I'll read them out for the benefit of everyone. I'll encourage you to post your questions in there as well, and I'll give some of you the opportunity to speak. Now, Professor Love, there's a first question for you, which says, as students, how can we build both excellence, that is grades and core skills, as well as innovation, that is risk-taking creativity, without compromising one for the other? How can we build both excellence, that is great core skills, and innovation, that is risk-taking and creativity, without compromising one for the other?
Well, I think that's a great question first, because I like the word "and." I think these days the "and" is important both for organizations and individuals. If you're thinking about, if I look at what the students that I see, right? Because I'm teaching undergraduates, I'm teaching MBA students, but particularly the undergraduates, right? Where they're just starting out and they're very focused on their grades and core skills, but also doing new things. I find they go ahead and they avoid getting so heavily committed to their classes and overcommitting to classes so they have time for the innovation side. And Jojo, actually, I have a slide here. It actually relates to um, there's a lot of ways to look at this idea of ambidexterity, and maybe this will be helpful to some of you. The structural ambidexterity is at the right, right? Because this is a question that's kind of about ambidexterity, right? Um, what you need is either sequential and this isn't something that as a student you can do because there's only one of you, right? But what you can do is choose your context, right? Create your own context where you have some context. People are very important in this, making contacts and working with people so that on the innovation side, you're not letting you make commitments to others, right? Your team of innovators. You get together with a group so that it's really a time management challenge, and that's the contextual ambidexterity. The sequential one is just to say, well, I'm gonna take a semester off and I'm gonna work on the innovation side. That's I ended up doing that when I was in college. My mother was horrified, but But yeah, that was sequential ambidexterity. So just a quick response to that really good question. I don't have any brilliant insights, unfortunately. I will say some of the classes that we teach really work on uh, um, active learning and learning through projects where you kind of get a chance to do both.
All right. So that question had come from Akansha, but I see another question from Priyanshi. It's quite a short question, but very important. Asking, how can a company keep innovating without losing focus on profits?
Well, so to take that one, that's where ambidexterity is actually a solution, right? If everybody's buried in these large established mainstream units where profits are a powerful metric and you're going to hold people accountable for profits, then broader innovations are often tough to generate sustained commitment to. So the idea of ambidexterity is you separate those units out, you provide them with a budget, often not a generous budget, right? But you ask them to kind of, scrap and fight to develop their products, maybe prototypes, get out in the market at low cost, explore and experiment. And you're working with milestones and growth as the metrics over here. And in the established business, those are the ones that are going to build your profit anyway. So that's the fundamental idea, is that you provide a context where people can switch between the two rather than always being focused on profits, and anything else is anything innovative that doesn't make profits in a year or two is, well, we can't do that. That's a formula for falling behind.
That's great. Now, this next question, it's a midpoint between your presentation as well as Gia's presentation. It's about for students who are aspiring to join GIS, and this comes from Park. For students who are aspiring to join GIS, what skills should we start developing now to contribute to innovation-driven growth?
I think, as a current student, right, you would like to pursue a master's degree or, a higher educate, advanced degree and advanced business degree. Innovation, it's not like, thinking about big ideas and become like a unicorn, a CEO of a unicorn next year or something. You can implement, innovation, the mindset every day, and then, kind of slowly practice your mindset, practice, in action, how to implement innovation ideas, how to be not afraid of taking the risk in your daily life to make small changes, right? And to make a big impact in our, when we review our application materials, we're not looking at like, hey, you already have like a huge achievement, but rather we want to see your potential. So definitely, I think look at your daily life, look at your current job. What are some of the things you could make an impact? From a kind of innovative idea or new strategy or new ideas.
And I would say that's an excellent answer. And I would just say a lot depends on your context, right? If your company, if you can put yourself in a position where innovation is accepted, then maybe you have chances to take a risk, you have chances to do things that are innovative and get some support. So that then it shows up, you say aspiring, to GIS. It shows up on your resume. It shows up as a story you can tell. But if you're not in that kind of a context, well, that's something over the long term, be thinking about how can I adjust my context? Can I move to a different unit? Can I work for a different boss? Can I get on a task force? Can I do something that'll put me in a context where I can be part of something innovative?
Awesome. So still staying with you, Gia. So there's a question about the program. Someone says, this comes from Ragav. Ragav says, if I am I'm confused between MS Business Analytics and MS Innovation Management, as I have interest in both. If I have to choose on the basis of job openings, so that's on the basis of career opportunities, which one should I take? That's MS Business Analytics and MS Innovation Management.
Yeah, definitely. There are some courses that are offered to both programs. So I often ask students, do you want to take 8 data analytics courses, right? Do you want to use kind of coding languages in all of your courses, like the 8 courses in your master's program, or would you like to have more management and general business training and have a taste of business? Maybe take 2 or 3 business analytics, maybe take 2 or 3 analytics courses, kind of on data analytics, right? In terms of a career outcome, we would say, like, you can both be business analyst, right? You could both be a consultant after graduating. It's just whatever you're interested in, how you want to utilize data, right? For the MS in technology management, it's more focusing on kind of interpreting data, tell a story based on data, generate your insight based on data. And then business analytics, maybe it will touch upon on how to get there, right? How to generate the right data, the cleanup data, how to build a database that help future managers, right? Leaders to make a decision. So it really depends on how challenging of like the quantitative challenging course you would like to have, and your career path as well, like what you want to do with the data.
Awesome. Awesome. Thanks for this, Gia. Now, this question comes from Mohsin. Mohsin is asking, do you think innovation and entrepreneurship skills can give students an edge over traditional career paths when work visas? Okay, so let's not think from the perspective of visas. Let's say when career opportunities become harder to secure. So rephrasing that, do you think innovation and entrepreneurship skills can give students an edge over traditional career path when opportunities become harder to secure, or when post-study opportunities become harder to secure? And this goes to both Professor Love and to Gia as well.
I can answer first.
Yes,
So
yes, go ahead.
yeah, that's a great question. I think in this, I feel like we are living in the kind of best time, I guess, best time of this world. Everybody can be an entrepreneur, right? Because we have super high technology, we have a lot of tools that can help us, and we also have internet. Like all of us can, make an impact and have the world to see our new ideas, interesting ideas, no matter if it's big or not, and then you have a chance, right, to succeed. I just read an article. I just watched a video a couple of days ago. Actually, one of our Geese business undergrad alum, she kind of created this like a little cap for your Stanley cup, Stanley straw. And then that's like, you think it's like very little, but she has a great design, great packaging. And then later on, she created a whole kind of accessory line for your Stanley cap, for the Stanley cap. And then she went to Shark Tank and got investment. And now her business is $1 million business. A few years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, she was just an undergraduate student sitting in her dorm and think about, I don't want the cup to spill and I want something cute and functional. And then she make influence on internet, and then all of a sudden, right, whatever she learned from Geese, she had a mentor. I think she had a mentor from our Geese iVenture student group. So whatever you learn from Geese, it's directly implementing in your business idea. I'm not really sure about how it's related to working visa, because if you want to be an entrepreneur, you can start your own company anywhere in the world, right? And you can make impact. You can be an entrepreneur of whatever industry. It doesn't have to be like AI or high tech, right? You can sell little straw cap and be a millionaire because of the internet, the power of internet, and the power of how people are connected in this world.
Thank you,
And
Gia.
I don't
Thank
really
you
have a
very
lot
much.
to add.
Yes,
Just
yes.
just that I think these days every company that I talk to is talking about students who are curious, who are willing to try new things. I think that's fundamental to what they're looking for. So developing those kinds of skills, whether it's the kind of story that Xia talked about, or whether it's working in a company that I would treat them as essential, um, no matter what your major is.
Awesome. Now, there's a question about so I'll take a few questions all together for Gia, and then you can take all together. So one is about whether you can recommend any students or alumni groups or university hosted communities that they can connect with to better understand and navigate the pre-arrival process as students. And then also Hashita wants to know about APTI waivers. Since I saw you mentioned APTI waivers, are there also graduate assistantships available in the innovation research areas at GIS?
Yes, definitely. Our international student and the scholars services office is constantly watching, the kind of the implication of the visa challenges, student visa, H-1B visa, right afterwards. Right now the policy is changing every day, so nobody can predict what's going to happening. So we can only kind of react, right? We provide a lot of support for students to kind of through during their OPT as well, or after arriving on campus. If you have any visa related questions, you can always go to our international student office. And also, our university has a steering committee, the Federal Policy Steering Committee, to give everybody on campus an update about what is happening, in terms of immigration visa or student visa, and what the university or what other university, our peer institutions, are collaboratively doing, kind of to help advocate for our international students. As I said, we have international students from more than 123 countries on campus today, right? That is a big obligation that we have, right? We bring you here, we're obligated to kind of provide you a great experience. So we'll do whatever we can to support you and advocate for your right. Also, assistantship, we do not provide assistantships that can help waive or reduce your tuition fees. However, as I mentioned, there's kind of student worker opportunities, on-campus jobs opportunities that you can kind of work for our, I see that, I know that some of the students are working in our disruption lab, which is focusing on innovation and entrepreneurship. Some students are working in our kind of a data team as well, help with data analytics. And we also have a flagship student organization called IBC, Illinois Business Consulting. It is not paid. However, if you want to practice your kind of a client-facing experience, practice your kind of a business insight, that's a great opportunity for you to get involved. There are different ways to involve or kind of earn some extra money while you are kind of gaining your business skills.
Awesome. Now, I'll come back to you, Professor Love, before we return to Gia to complete all the admission-related questions. So, Ayushi is asking, how can we train our minds to think more innovatively when approaching business strategy? Professor Love, you are muted.
There we are. Sorry about that. Yeah, I mean that's a really good question. How do you train your mind to think innovatively in a particular area? And what I would say is a lot of creativity is about reframing what the issue is, what the problem is, and so on. To do that, your mind works in terms of concepts. So I think there's a lot of value in understanding the concepts around strategy and organization, like ambidexterity, like uncertainty, like technology cycles, so that your mind has something to work with, that it can then work to rearrange and recombine in different ways. And then there's also courses on creativity itself, which is really about reframing, changing how you look at a problem. And I was actually just, I'm going to share my screen here. Um, Hold on for a second. There we are. This is what I have a colleague, Jeff Lowenstein, who's a brilliant, brilliant scholar, and he wrote a book called The Craft of Creativity, along with co-author. And I would suggest this book, or some of Jeff's podcasts, right? He has some podcasts that he's done TED Talks. I would look at his work. He's just not only a brilliant guy, but very practical. So that would be my answer there. Good question, Ayushi.
Thank you very much, Professor Love. Now, I'll come back to you, Gia. So there are two questions we'll tackle together as we get close to bringing today's session to a conclusion. So first is from Raghav. Raghav is asking, developing countries have highly diverse marking systems. Some universities have stringent marking, and 3/4 GPA is highest. That's possibly the highest one could attain. And some universities have more lenient marking, having high average GPA. So how does your university tackle this situation whilst evaluating applications? So Raghav basically feels that if you are in a university that has a more stringent marking, you may be disadvantaged in what sort of GPA you present for admission into Gibbs College of Business. And then the other GPA related question comes from Vaishali. It says, beyond GPA, what other factors does your university give importance to in ensuring students from tougher grading? Okay, it's similar. Tougher grading systems are not at a disadvantage. So they are both Raghav and Vaishali are worried about schools with tough grading and how that might impact their chances of getting into their preferred Gibbs College of Business. Over to you, Gia. And if you want to chip in, Professor Love as well.
This is I think this is my fourth admission cycle. We see all kinds of mark sheets, and grading systems. And our graduate college it has a lot of experts that can help convert from your own grading system to a 4.0 scale. So I know some of the countries use 10-point scale. Some of the countries use 100-point scale. Some of the countries use 5-point scale. So don't worry, we have like a formula, which is a very complex formula that help you convert your GPA. And I think most of the GPAs are pretty fair. I would say, in terms of the conversion. So usually we look at your mark sheet and translate whatever score that equals to a B grading. So that's like a 3.0 out of 4 in our system. And then we'll do the translation from there. We know some of the universities are a little bit more strict. We also look at the university's reputation as well. When consider your GPA, definitely we're not going to throw away your application if you don't have a 3.0 GPA. We'll take a look at everybody's application, from your transcript to your resume to your essay, right? Video essay and everything. So you have different kind of opportunity to present your qualification. So we take a holistic application review. If you can see, there are a lot of materials that you can present in addition to your transcript. And also a lot of students, a lot of applicants that we have work experience as well. So definitely your professional experience, the more work experience you have, right? The less important your transcript is, because you have more evidence to show that you are a good business leader, right? You will do well. You are a top performer in your current company or organization. So definitely, if you have a little bit lower GPA, make sure that you present kind of your strong qualification in other materials. We definitely take a holistic approach. We do not have a GPA cutoff that prevent us from reviewing your other materials. Jojo, you're muted.
Thank you, Gia. So that's well answered as well. So there are no disadvantages as by Charlie and may have perceived. I think we have come really far, and all the questions have been answered as well. But I'll go back to, and thank you all very much. Joining us from all over the world, from India, from Nigeria, from Ghana, from all over the world. It's great to have you all on the call. And you've all asked some really good questions. I'll go first to Gia for any last words, and then I'll go to Professor Love for the same.
Well, thank you. Thank you everyone for attending the webinar, and we hope that you will submit your application or sign up for our Coursera courses, or sign up for our graduate degree online as well. So hopefully, right, your relationship with the geese, it's just a start today, and then look forward to seeing you in other occasions.
Awesome. And Professor Love?
Well, I just want to thank people for taking the time, and I just hope that you found the information, engaging and interesting, and that some of you find it useful in framing the challenges at your own work as time goes on. So thank you again. I thought this was a really cool experience.
Absolutely. And thank you, Professor Love. Thank you, Gia. Personally, I've also learned a bit about innovation, how to apply it to my work and balancing it with achieving excellence. So thank you very much. This has been great. And thank you to all of you joining us from all over the world. It's late evening in India, and it's late afternoon in Nigeria, and in East Africa, it's early evening as well. And I have enjoyed hosting this session for all of you. And we hope to, in the very near future, to see your applications at GIS, and also to start and to commence your journey towards getting into GIS and starting your dream postgraduate program at GIS as well. And hopefully, you'll soon sit in a class with Professor Geoffrey Love, who has been our presenter and our expert for today. So thank you all very much, and have a good afternoon, a good evening, or a good night.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.